to recognize myself for my period of questioning now. I'm going to start with just saying a few comments about Iran and then asking some questions outside of that. And the comments just bear on what you just said, Mr. Castro. We have an important role here. Yesterday, we had several hours of debate about war powers, a war powers resolution, about whether Iran is the largest state sponsor of terror. We all votes on those things today. And given that we do have a very important job to do, 435 in the House of Representatives. It was astounding to me that there couldn't even be any level of nuance about the threat that Iran poses. When we have members of Congress here that have voted numerous times to say Iran is the largest state sponsor of terror, or the Iran proxies this, or their participation in October 7, or we literally, almost every single member, Republican and Democrat, voted to say that their nuclear program is this existential threat, and literally, to use the verbiage of the bill that members voted on, use any and all means necessary to eliminate it. And to have members vote on that and vote yes, and then want to come forward this week and say, nah, no threat at all from Iran. No, they've been doing this literally every single day. They killed 3 Americans a year and a half ago in Jordan. They knocked aircraft off of our ships. They hit merchant marine vessels. They fly drones at U.S. Navy vessels. Nah, there's no threat from Iran whatsoever. No, in fact, if they've been doing it every day for however many years, then it can't be imminent. I mean, that's the stupidity of some of the things that are being said here. If it's being done every day, that doesn't meet the definition of imminent. That is moronic. So I'm going to leave my comments about that there. I want to talk about some other things more related to your work. And it's been brought up by me, by others. Some people call these things waste. Some people call these things good programs. Transgender operas. Somebody just said, it doesn't exist. I submitted for the record the paperwork showing, yeah, this does exist, and here's the receipt for it. And we have hundreds of these things just like this. The dollar amount, it's important. You know, some of these, they are, they're large dollar amounts. They're years' wages for many Americans. Are they huge in the dollar amount of what the United States of America spends? No. But the volume of crazy, I don't know a better word to use, crazy programs. The volume of crazy programs is astronomical. When you look at how many transgender operas, musicals, plays, job fairs they were doing, how many drag shows they were doing, how, not one comic book, multiple issues of comic books. And we can get into these, DEI flash mob in Kyrgyzstan, diversity roadshow in India, diversity and inclusion in Luxembourg, in Spain, in New Zealand, in Canada, in Malaysia, teaching trans and intersex leaders in India. The volume of these things, and some of them are very large numbers, from hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. Some of them are $10,000 and $20,000. It is amazing. But I want to ask you a few questions on these. And maybe you can ask also as well, can you provide us some information on some of these things, whether here, whether in the future? So here was one. I don't even understand what this means. Study the relationship between collective movement, meaning walking, boxing, dancing, and systemic conditions of anti-trans violence. Is there a receipt for that?
So I actually came prepared to this hearing with certain details on all of these grants, but to the extent there are additional internal records, we'd be happy to work with the committee to provide them, and I'm happy to supplement the record with a list of USA spending, records and other things.
It's literally very helpful, because as you witnessed yourself, we will have members literally say, nah, Republicans just made that up. That didn't exist. You shouldn't be sidelining funding from these agencies. They weren't really doing these things. And their hand is in the cookie jar, and they won't believe it. They probably won't even believe it if you submit the records. But I would prefer you submit the record. Can you tell me what is queering the map?
So I think we were trying to make the maps more gay.
Literally? How do you make a map more gay?
I mean, especially
or
with
gay
AI,
at all?
Since the age of cartography, we've had pretty good maps, but maybe they weren't gay enough. So I know also, I took critical theory in college. I think sometimes people use queer as a verb. I do understand that the maps that we were trying to make gay were, I think, of Czechia and Slovakia, so maybe those countries asked for it. I doubt it, but I don't know.
We do have real things to work on in Congress, like what's going on with the imminent threat of Iran, and it is embarrassing that we have to talk about the fact that things like this were funded. Non-binary and trans francophones, linguistic attitudes and ideologies towards inclusive French in Montreal, Canada, these things. I'm going to give you a list. My time has expired. I'm going to give you a list of these, and any of these that you can provide me the receipt for, the Facebook link to where they wanted to take photos of how they were doing a DEIA flash mob in Kyrgyzstan, whatever documentation they have of all of these things, we would love to see that and would absolutely love to know the individuals specifically that were busy writing these grants, because they have no business.
In a sharp departure from routine committee proceedings, a heated session on Capitol Hill has underscored a deepening rift over federal spending priorities and national security definitions. A key member of the House, taking his period of questioning, delivered a blunt critique of what he described as a moronic dismissal of the Iranian threat by some colleagues, while simultaneously presenting a volume of crazy regarding niche federal grants. The representative began by addressing the ongoing debate over the War Powers Resolution, expressing disbelief that some members of Congress are downplaying the imminence of the threat from Tehran. He pointed to a pattern of daily aggression, including the killing of 3 Americans in Jordan, the harassment of merchant marine vessels, and drone strikes against U.S. Navy assets, arguing that the frequency of these attacks does not negate their imminence, but rather confirms a state of constant peril. He noted the irony of members who previously voted to authorize any and all means necessary to stop Iran's nuclear program now claiming there is no threat at all. Shifting the focus to domestic fiscal oversight, the representative turned to a series of federal grants that he argues represent a gross misuse of taxpayer funds. Challenging claims that such programs are fabrications, he submitted receipts for a staggering array of international initiatives. The list included funding for transgender operas, DI flash mobs in Kyrgyzstan, diversity road shows in India, and inclusive French linguistics studies. The most bizarre moment of the testimony centered on a project titled Queering the Map. When pressed for an explanation, the witness suggested the initiative was an attempt to make geographical maps more gay, specifically in regions like Czechia and Slovakia. The representative questioned the utility of such projects at a time when the nation faces existential security threats, highlighting a grant designed to study the relationship between collective movement, such as dancing and boxing, and systemic conditions of anti-trans violence. The representative concluded his testimony by demanding full documentation and the names of the individuals responsible for approving these grants. He asserted that those prioritizing queer cartography and international drag shows over traditional diplomatic and security needs have no business receiving another paycheck from the people of the United States. The session ended with a formal request for all internal records and Facebook links associated with these programs, signaling an escalating investigation into the administrative state's spending habits.